Hi drummers, hope you're well. Quick one for you here about building up your bass drum speed and technique. Now, when you're first getting going with the drums, and this kind of assumes you're doing like a grade syllabus thing, but it doesn't have to be, often grade 1, grade 2, what you do when you start playing grooves and changing around the bass drum a little bit, is you play bass drums which are in sync with the hi-hat, playing eighth notes, right? So say that you're playing... at grade 1, grade 2 you might start doing... moving the kick drum around a little bit, but it's always in sync with the hi-hat. So every bass drum hit is always in sync with the hi-hat hit. Now, beyond that, grade 3, grade 4, you start to play more busy bass drum patterns, and in particular patterns where there's a bass drum dropping in between the hi-hat eighth notes. So if you're following the Trinity Rock and Pop grades, which loads of people seem to be at the minute, the one for the new grade 3 is Alabama Shakes Don't Want to Fight. That's got a little groove in it that goes. In the previous rock and pop grade, it was Creep, Radiohead, had this. I get a load of messages saying things like, how do I play that groove? I can play everything apart from that one bit. That's really hard. How does that work? And I think sometimes what happens is drummers, and I would totally have done this as well when I was younger, just put the song up and they just start playing it and they just try and play that part straight away. They try and sort of perform it straight away. And it's difficult. And what it needs is a bit of build-up. I think drummers often forget or don't realise that with stuff like that, you need to lay a bit of foundation, do the groundwork a little bit ahead of time, get your right foot working a little bit. So then when it comes up in the music, you've already got a little head start on it. You already know sort of what you're doing a little bit. This is what I'd recommend doing, and a real simple one. I would actually super recommend a book called Time Functioning Patterns by Gary Chafer, which I'll talk about in another video that's on here about bass drum speed. That's a little bit more involved. This is the kind of diet version, just to get you started at first. Doesn't require any reading music or anything like that. Here, we're going to play a straight eighths type of beat. And in the first instance here, we're going to take the one kick drum and we're going to play it in all 4 of the possible positions within a set of 16th notes. So if you know 1 E and as in semiquaver, 16th notes, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and we're going to play the kick drum in all 4 of those positions as in a straight eighths feel. So if it's on the 1, this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, dropping in on the 1 and the 3 on the beat. We're now going to move that single bass drum to the E, as in 1 E and This will mean that kick will go in between the hi-hats on a straight eighths feel. 1 E and 2 and 1. Hopefully that's making a bit of sense. I've shifted that kick from the 1 to the E. If I shift it forward again on the 16th, that's going to go on the and now, 1 E and that's now going to be in sync with the hi-hat playing those eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and finally, if I shift it again, it's going to be on the 1 E and That's now going to be after the second hi-hat and before the snare drum hit. 1 and 2 and 3 That's the first step on this little warm-up exercise, getting the single kick into the 4 different positions. I'll recap on that. On the 1 and the 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. On the E, 1 and 2 and. On the and, 1 and 2. And on the 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4 E. That's a great first step. So if you can place that kick in the 4 different positions, you'll be in business. Get your musical brain and your right foot working. A bit of coordination to think about there as well. That'll be a great start. Now the next step would be to play 2 bass drums on 16ths. exactly the same principle. We're going to play on the 1, the E, and the and, and the So with 2 kicks, it's going to give you 1 E, 3 E, 1 E, and a 2 E, and a 3 E, and a 4 E. So the first kick here in sync with the first hi-hat. The second kick on the E in the gap between the hi-hats. So 1 E and. If I start my 2 little kicks on the E, 1 E and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. This is the one from Don't Want to Fight from grade 3. 1 and 2 and. Here we're starting the 2 kicks, which are 2/16ths next to each other on the E. The first one is in the gap between the hi-hats. 1 E. The second one and is with the hi-hat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The third one is going to start on the and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 3 and 4 and. So the first kick here on the second hi-hat on the and in sync with the hi-hat, and then one on the which is on its own after that. 1 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and finally we start our 2 kicks on the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So on that one the kick comes in on its own after the second hi-hat on the and then it will be in sync with the snare drum and hi-hat for beat 2 or beat 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So I'm going to recap on those 2-note ones, starting on beat 1. 1 E, starting on E. Starting on and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and starting on 1 and 2 and 3 and. Here they come again. Super useful exercises. I'll recap the whole lot now. 1 bass drum moving through all the positions, 2 bass drums moving through all the positions. Here we go. 1 bass drum on the 1. 1 bass drum on the E. 1 bass drum on the A. 1 bass drum on the 2 bass drums on the 1. 2 bass drums on the E. 2 bass drums on the and. 2 bass drums on the L. Hope this is all making a bit of sense. Super useful. Spend a bit of time with that. Go slow, build it up, and then when you hit those moments in those grade 3, grade 4 tunes, or anything around that point where you need those 2 quick kicks to happen in and amongst the hi-hats, you'll have the skill. You'd have laid that groundwork to make that happen, man. So it doesn't come out of nowhere. You have to build up to it. Just take some time with it. Of course, you can extend that and do 3s and 4s. So 3 notes starting on the 1, 3 notes starting on the E. So on. You can do 4 notes starting on the 1, 4 notes starting on the E. So on, and we'll get to that in another video, I think. But first, certainly for that first step of going from playing every kick in sync with the hi-hat to just starting to get a bit tasty, grade 3, grade 4 level, dropping the kick in between the hi-hats and getting a bit more busy, stick with the 1 and the 2 and get that nailed down before you sort of go on to 3 and 4. In theory, you can do any number really. Have some fun. I hope that all makes a bit of sense. I think that should be really, really useful if you stick with it, persevere with it. It's not going to happen immediately. It'll require a little bit of slowing down, working it out, thinking it out. Sometimes, is my kick here in sync with the hi-hat? Is it in between? That's time unbelievably well spent by the time, when you're sitting down at the kit, firing out some bass drums, people are watching you going, oh, that's cool, I can't play that part, how's he doing that? Just take your time with it, man, build it up, use these exercises, and see you soon. Thanks a lot.